Hi everyone, how's it going? So in this video, I'm going to try using my headphones to see if that makes the sound quality a little better and louder. So if you could let me know in the comments if it did seem like the sound was better, I would appreciate that. Thank you. So in this video, I'm going to continue sort of with the entity attachments thing I was talking about in the other video. But in this part, I'm going to talk about the human spirit attachments. So these are entity attachments that are human in nature. And then in the second part of the video, I'll talk about some of the attachments that I grew up with and a couple risk factors for the more human attachments. So there are all kinds of beings in the spirit world, and not all human spirits cross over to the other side or into our fourth dimensional world after death. So some of them will just kind of hang around in the third dimension as a fourth dimensional being. Some mediums can kind of see these spirits, but they're called earthbound spirits. So ghosts typically kind of attach to like a place, whereas like entities will kind of attach to a person. So that's why I kind of differentiate between that. So as far as the human spirits, these are very, very common, much more common than the non-human attachments. So the thing about the human spirits is that they can sort of completely take over the body because they are human, so they can function in society, whereas a non-human one would not be able to. They typically don't take over though, because it kind of requires both parties like allowing it to happen. And a lot of human spirits that are human in nature also aren't very powerful because like humans haven't been around long enough for things to like be able to easily overpower other humans. So as far as both sides sort of allowing the attachment to happen, so what kind of encourages or helps things to attach to us is our fear. So the thing about the human ones that's different than the non-human ones is that the human ones will sort of be like, oh, just listen to me, and if you don't listen to me, something bad's going to happen, and I'm going to take over anyway, so you may as well just do what I say. Those kinds of things are just fear, so they're trying to use your fear to like manipulate you into sort of giving into them. So as long as you maintain sort of like your own sense of free will and realize that it can't actually do that unless you give in to this fear and allow it to, and you continue to hold on to hope and faith that a solution is possible, then there's no chance that they can actually do anything to you. So that's one annoying part of human spirit attachments, is that they will sort of try to convince you of these things and try to talk to you and all that. And because they're human in nature, you can sort of take on their qualities and their traits that they sort of had. So, that's why doing any kind of like hard drugs or even drinking too much is not good for the spiritual body, because these attachments, like if you're hanging out in a bar and you're kind of like an alcoholic, the alcoholic entities are going to hang out in a bar and then find someone to attach to so they can sort of live vicariously through you to continue drinking. So this would have happened with other hard drugs. Two really common ones that encourage this kind of entity behavior is meth and heroin. So those two drugs are really bad as far as encouraging these attachments, because they're also really addictive and the spirits don't want to let go of that sort of addiction. So another thing that can sort of help the human spirits to attach is any kind of trauma or abuse. So this is also sort of like a risk factor for non-human ones as well, but human entities are like a much more prevalent in the environment, so there's a much higher chance of coming into contact with one of them versus the non-human ones. Although some of the non-human ones can be more common, they also sort of require more of a wearing down before they can sort of attach, whereas the human ones will sort of attach to any kind of like negative emotion. So they can also attach in a moment of trauma or some kind of abuse. And they will hang around like children undergoing trauma to try to attach to them as well. Because if you're sort of growing up with an attachment and it's human, then you're more likely to sort of incorporate it into your personality and just assume that that's just part of who you are. because, you know, you weren't cognitively fully developed when it attached, so you didn't really understand that it wasn't you. And that can kind of be the case for any kind of attachment. And then you'll just sort of take on its characteristics without sort of being aware of it. So the human spirits are pretty common. They tend to be drawn towards emotions like anger, hatred, lust, greed, addiction, fear. So I actually had a few attachments growing up. So the first one attached around age 7, and this was told to me by the person who originally cleared them before I like started doing it myself. So one attached when I was 7, one attached in like a moment of trauma I had at 14, and then a couple other ones just kind of attached along the way. I don't really remember what happened with those ones. So when you're growing up with these things, it's easier to sort of incorporate them into your personality and just assume like, oh yeah, I'm just like a really angry person, or like I'm just really sarcastic, but that might not actually be you. It could just be the entities. So when the entities are attaching it, you're never going to take on like a positive characteristic. It's always going to be something negative, because a positive spirit wouldn't attach, it wouldn't violate free will, it wouldn't try to sort of control your body using like emotional, fourth dimensional pressures. Another way you can sort of tell if you might have some of these attachments is they can send you kind of images in your head. They also cause nightmares. Both human and non-human attachments can cause nightmares, but the non-human ones are more likely to cause night terrors, but they both can cause both. So the entities will often cause nightmares a lot. They will make you feel super fatigued, drained, feel like you're always kind of being watched. If you like kind of like stare into your eyes in a mirror, you might feel kind of uncomfortable, because like our eyes kind of reflect our energy. So if there's more than one energy being reflected back at you, it can sort of be weird, because the energy is attached to your energy field, so you can sort of see it in that way. Some other ways you can know is if there's like anxiety, depression that maybe traditional remedies haven't helped to treat, or if you just feel like you're not yourself anymore, or if maybe you have like a new weird addiction. The thing about developing new addictions is that I wouldn't say that's very common, because they're typically attaching when you're a child, and then you're just sort of assuming the characteristics that are as yours when they're not. But if maybe something attaches and you're suddenly getting an urge to eat more junk food or that kind of thing, that could be like an indication of an attachment. And the most annoying part about the human attachments is that because they're human, they can sort of like try to like talk to you and convince you of things like, oh, I'm just a past version of you, or something weird like that, which is definitely not true. So, you know, always trust your own intuition, and, you know, see a doctor if there's any medical issues going on. This is just one aspect of your spiritual health that is important to kind of take care of. So I do have other videos on clearing yourself of attachments. That tends to typically work a lot better with the human ones. The non-human ones are going to probably be a little more difficult to get rid of without external help, because the non-human ones are feeding on fear, and fear is one of those emotions that's really hard to get rid of. And if you're not completely rid of fear, then the non-human ones can be more difficult to get rid of. The human ones are typically a little easier to get rid of, so the methods I have in those other videos should be more helpful. So I hope this was helpful and made sense. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and I will see you soon. Okay, bye.